आपके सारे वीडियोस नॉर्मल वीडियोस को देखो
How do you know the world is round when you blissfully enchanted on the ground? How do you see the world outside when you're surrounded by a picture in your mind? When I saw your eyes, they stole my heart, and they told me I was living in the dark. In the great divide, and I'm making to be on the other side. But before you walk through walls, you will leave all this behind. Before you walk through walls, you will look it in the eye. Before you walk through walls, you will learn to say goodbye. If you let your guard down long enough to try. How do you know the flame is real? Out of all the fires, this is one I feel. They happen so fast, the moments pass, and we're all waiting for the moments that will last. When I saw your eyes, they stole my heart. Before you walk through walls, you will leave all this behind. Before you walk through walls, you will look it in the eye. Before you walk through walls, you will learn to say goodbye. If you let your guard down long enough to try.
Your conference will begin shortly.
I've been losing sleep for days, no indents on my pillowcase. You I chase, what a waste. All just sinking to the floor. Am I lonely? Am I bored? To the core, I'm not sure. Oh, I don't blame you for leaving, but with your stuff stuck to the ceiling, it's hard to let it go. Throw rocks up out a window, keep the key next to the door if you want to say hello. Oh. You're worse than a paper cut on my hand, it won't seal up, but I'm stuck, just my luck. And I admit that I did you wrong, stepped in where I don't belong. We've strong, now you're gone. Oh, I don't blame you for leaving, but with your stuff stuck to the ceiling, it's hard to let it go. Throw rocks up out a window, keep the key next to the door if you want to say hello. Oh, I got a whole stack of up at my window. I'll keep the key next to the door if you want to say hello. Oh. Sorta like a disease, swimming through every single part of me. Dead leaves, leave them dead where they stand. Like I'm sick, but babe, so much worse than that. Everyone around me was the autumn. I was falling to the bottom. Candle wax straight through my fingertips, kept it frozen in the amber of my traitor lips. Life's too long to breathe this free, but I don't know who's getting me. But I went out of you so many ways, but I like it up is our every day. No running, I know it, I'll yell. 'Cause what you got under your coat is a tough sell. But like the dew, I'm here every morning. You like it too, the sun's early warning. Life's too long to breathe this deep, and I don't know who is getting me. But I'm without you in so many ways, and I like it up is our everyday.
As our gift to you, download these songs for free at intercalllounge.com.
Sunset, I've waited for you all day. I've waited for you all day. Smile out, so come quick. I'm ready for you always. I'm ready for you clouds rolling in, feel the fear creeping into my heart again. Sometimes life's like a ruthless fight you can never win. Can't listen to the doubt dragging around my soul, down every dead and midnight road. Gotta choose to hold on to the truth I know. So bring on the fire, try to burn me out. Bring on the wind, try to knock me down. Bring on the rain and all of the pain, 'cause I got a faith that'll never drown. And just when you think I can't take no more, I come back stronger than I was before. 'Cause when I'm down in the dust, I know I'm gonna rise up even higher. A fighter. At the moment I got nothing left, when I gotta take just one more step. 'Cause if I don't, I won't see the victory that's gonna come next. So bring on the fire, try to burn me out. Bring on the wind, try to knock me down. Bring on the rain and all of the pain, 'cause I got a faith that'll never drown. And just when you think I can't take no more, I come back stronger than I was before. 'Cause when I'm down in the dust, I know I'm gonna rise up even higher. A fighter. When the smoke clears, you'll see I'm gonna be back on my feet. Oh, oh.
Your conference will begin shortly.
It's the nightlight calling. Can you hear it in your mind? It's the daylight falling. Can you leave it all behind? Nightlight calling. Can
world outside. When you're surrounded by a picture in your mind. When I saw your eyes, you stole my heart. And they told me I was living in the dark. And now I'm caught in the great divide. And I'm making to be on the other side. But before you walk through walls, you will leave all this behind. Before you walk through walls, you will look it in the eye. Before you walk through walls, you will learn to say goodbye. If you let your guard down long enough to try. How do you know the flame is real? Out of all the fires, this is one I feel. They happen so fast. The moments pass, and we're all waiting for the moments that will last. When I saw your eyes, you stole my heart, heart, heart. Before you walk through walls, you will leave all this behind. Before you walk through walls, you will look it in the eye. Before you walk through walls, you will learn to say goodbye. If you let your guard down long enough to try.
Your conference will begin shortly. Follow us on Twitter for the latest intercalllounge.com updates.
You blew my mind when we were swinging in a dream, and you said, watch me, I'll swing so high, I'll be stuck up in the trees, and so you did. I forgot it was a dream, and so you did. I left you in my mind and wandered to the creek, where I saw the little children, and the children laughed at me, and so I did. But when I went the day, I should have skipped. Oh, I try to sleep, but then I wake up.
While you're waiting for your conference to begin, we hope you enjoy music from these exciting up-and-coming artists.
My song needs to be released. I'll pack my bags, I'm gonna leave. Try it all that I can on a game that I will never win. You're not even listening. Appreciate what I've given. When I'm gone, you realize all I compromise. Are you listening? Are you listening? Are you listening? Are you listening? Oh yes, I'm leaving you behind. And this feeling, the liberating kind. Oh yes it is. I've opened up my mind to the world. Yeah, I'll take what's mine. I'm leaving you behind. So now I choose to go to a place that will help me grow. Step out of my comfort zone. I'm strong enough for on my own now. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'll venture into something new. And when I'm gone, you realize all I compromise. Are you listening? Are you listening? I wanna know. Please. Are you listening? Are you listening? I'm leaving you behind. And this feeling, the liberating kind. Yes, it is. I've opened up my mind to the world. Yeah, I'll take what's mine. I wanna sing it one more time. I'm leaving you behind. And this feeling, the liberating kind. Yeah, I've opened up my mind to the world. Yeah, I'll take what's mine. I'm leaving you
Your conference will begin shortly.
I've been losing sleep for days, no indents on my pillowcase. You are chase, what a waste.
The leader has disconnected the conference. Please try your call again later.
Isolation. then Buddha spoke this verse to them. Buddha reflected on it and simultaneously. Sounds very interesting.
Thank you. The leader has not yet arrived. Please stand by.
As our gift to you, download these songs for free at intercalllounge.com.
Over to clear.
Sunset, I've waited for you all day. I've waited for you all day, my love. So come quick, I'm ready for you always. I'm ready for you always, my love. Just you, just you, just you. Hear me out, hear my feelings out loud. I'm running over the clouds to you.
Carried on.
Blue moon is shining there for us now. It's following us around the room. I've waited for you all day. I've waited
And
for
also
you
the
all
Yastani.
day.
छोटी मम से अत्तर अपने आप को ट्रेन करना चाहिए। तो अत्तर को अपने आप काट करके रखता है। सती मत हम देखते हैं
See those black clouds rolling in. You can see it creeping into my heart again. Sometimes life's like a ruthless fight. You can never win. Can't listen to the doubt dragging around my soul. Down every dead and midnight road. Gotta choose to hold on to the truth I know. Bring on the fire, try to burn me out. Bring on the wind, try to knock me down. Bring on the rain, and all of the pain. 'Cause I got a faith that'll never drown. Just when you think I can't take no more, I come back stronger than I was before. 'Cause when I'm down in the dust, I know I'm gonna rise up even higher. A fighter. Sounds at the moment I got nothing left. When I gotta take just do one more step. 'Cause if I don't, I won't see the victory. It's gonna come next. So bring on the fire, try to burn me out. Bring on the wind, try to knock me down. Bring on the rain and all of the pain. 'Cause I got a faith
Just use the old flow and flow.
As our gift to you, download these songs for free at intercalllounge.com.
स्थायी अक्षर होती है, स्थायी अक्षर होती है, कई बार अनर्थ किया
I'm waiting for you all day.
ये ट्रांसलेशन बिल्कुल
My love,
soul is everything, soul is your love, soul is
I'm
your
ready for you
destination,
always.
soul to the extend the body.
I'm ready for you always. My
Yourself
love.
being very strongly interested also. Let's do this. Let's go on this.
Just you, just you, just you, just you. Hear me out, hear my feelings out loud. I'm
हर अलग हर उप समान उप समान उपसम मतलब उनको शांत करना, संसारों को शांत करना ही सुख है। That is the even so प्रमोद बहुलो दुखो, जो भिक्षु हमेशा प्रमोद से रहता है, सुखी रहता है, खुश रहता है। असंग बुद्ध शासन, उसका बुद्ध से टीचिंग कॉन्फिडेंस है। अधिगच्छे पदम संता, वो शांत पद प्राप्त। संखार, कौन से शांत पद को? संखार उपशमन, संखार उपशमन से शांति मिलती है। The monk is full of joy and trusting in Buddha's teaching will acquire the peaceful state, which is the nirvana, the happiness of quieting all the sankharas. So the story is about a young man named Vakkali. He was so, पहली बार उन्होंने देखा उनको, he was so impressed that he became a monk. He would always be with him, उन्हीं के साथ पकड़ के रहता था. Wherever Buddha will go, he will go there. He didn't bother about any other practice or anything. So Buddha exhorted him that in order to see the Buddha, you should see the Dhamma. वो जो कहानी आती है ना, respect to this Vakkali monk. So मेरे साथ साथ रहते हो, you not seeing me. So he went away and very much upset. Buddha is asking me to, implicitly asking me to go. And then Buddha understood his mind and then again presented himself in his trance. When he was meditating, he felt as if Buddha was there. And his mind became calmed and he started practicing and soon became enlightened. So Buddha had to create that illusion for him. When he is meditating, he is with him. यो भावे हवे जहारो भिक्खु युन्यात जाति युंजति बुद्धा शासानि, बुद्ध के शासन में बुद्ध की टीचिंग। ओम लोकम अपसेति अभा मुक्तोवा चंदु। स्टैंडर्ड मेटाफर। सो इमम लोकम प्रभासेति, जो इस श्लोक को इस तरह से प्रभाषित करता है जैसे अभा मुक्तो चंद्रमा, जैसे क्लाउड्स से थ्री चांद। What is saying? You have a धारो भिक्खु, धारो नया है, छोटा है। तो जो भिक्षु जब वो छोटा है, युंजति बुद्ध शास्त्र, अपने आप को भगवान की टीचिंग में लगा देता है। वो इस संसार को illuminates the world like a moon freed from clouds. The story is about a young pupil of Venerable Anuruddha. You know this. Although he was very young, he retained a but he was also endowed with supernatural powers. So once he brought a jar of water for his teacher from another loka, and by using his power, flying to that another loka. Was that Anuradha, Venerable Anuradha, and this young novice by the name Sula went to see the Buddha. Other novices laughed at him. So they announced that भाई सब नोविस जो है मतलब जो सब ये नए भिक्खु हैं वो मुझे इस लेक से पानी ला दो. None of them was able to go and he was able to
Your
go and
conference
drink.
will begin
Then
shortly.
Buddha told them that you should not get carried away by the smallness of the age of a person. It does not matter as long as he practices the Dhamma daily. That is the story.
Nightlight calling, can you hear it in your mind? Daylight
So we will make the presentation. So are ready?
can you leave it all behind?
कितने महीने हो गए? I think 2 chapters are not possible. So I have emailed you the presentation. So
Calling, can you hear it in your mind? The daylight falling, all behind. Death if you got no money, death if you got no love.
So we are at the chapter 8 and starts with the discovery of inner space. And in this section, discovery of inner space, Arpan is by the online.
let's finish all of this.
Sir, when
So we have another guest today, Arvind Puthi. They are friends of Raman and Swati. How do you remember Swati? She's better. She's better. Not normal. Last time उनको normal in the sense कि सब कुछ न कुछ चला हुआ
Arvind, is it okay now? Okay. Okay. Arpan, is it okay for you also now? Okay. So actually, it seems that the software connect which we use had a newer version, and there were some changes.
I was trying to connect it to the new call for Arpan, but could not succeed. So वो उसमें कुछ setting रह गई है.
Okay.
Log was software.
Okay. So The section, chapter 8, discovery of inner space. So it has these two phases. This too will pass, and is that so? And the author concludes that non-resistance, non-judgment, and non-attachment are the three aspects of the true freedom and the enlightened living. And the next section which we studied was object consciousness and space consciousness. And to differentiate in our day-to-day living when we are in thinking mode. So we are in the object consciousness, and but the space consciousness is something which is before the object consciousness. And author is saying that object consciousness is equated with mind filled with clutter of thoughts of one after another, and space consciousness is the undercurrent of awareness. And the next section was falling below thought or rising above the thought. And the best example of it was television. That when we are so engrossed in watching the television, and the longer the screen remains the focus of your attention, the more your thought activity becomes suspended. It is linked into the thought activity of the television show, and it is linked up with the TV version of the collective mind and is thinking its thoughts. So that is uh, falling below thought. And the another next section is recognizing the inner space. And when you hear the inner space, you may start seeking it, because you are seeking it as if you are looking for an object or an experience. You cannot find it. So I think this is a common mistake which everybody does, is that we try to grasp that inner space, but we can't grasp. And whatever if we grasp, that is not the inner space. And the author says that it's like a cloudless sky. It has no form, it is space, it is stillness, and it's a sweetness of being, and infinitely more than the words which are the only pointers. These are all possibly the pointers of the descriptions we can give. They are not again the inner space. Become conscious of being conscious. Say or think I am and add nothing to it. Be aware of the stillness that follows the I am. So continuing with the next section, that is a right action. And possibly the right action can be equated with the right action of the Eightfold Path. And author gives a very beautiful way to do a right action where it comes out of yourself. And at the end of the action, there is nobody who is going to boast of the action or regret about something. And he says that you are still alert, open to what it is, and you look and listen, and then you become one with the situation. So these are all the signs of being aware of what's happening, and let the situation sink in automatically in you. And if possible, if action is possible or necessary, you take an action, or right action happens to you. And when the action is accomplished, the alert spaciousness still remains. There is nobody who raises his arm in gesture or triumph, shouting or a defiant yay, or there is no one who says, look, I did that. And I and Rajesh have been having, in fact, including Raman also, we had a lot of discussion between action and non-action, and whether these things, the teachings leads to non-action. And this section of book clearly explains that when you are one with the situation, action will happen. So it's not about action or not action. I think allow the natural state to express itself in the situation. So Silesh has a question. If so, where is the intention for action coming from? So, so I think the part of the so intention is where you remain in the realm of what to say, shield, and intention is to be aware, and that will possibly lead you to the right action. This is what I can say.
I think Silesh is asking, where is the intention to the action? For example, in the
So there is no specific
fourth point, he mentions that if the action is possible or necessary, you take action.
Yeah. So I think that there is no specific. So if you read the third point, that you become one with the situation. So when you become one with the situation, possibly the action will happen itself. It's not something that you need to do. So there is no forcing here of an intention on an action. The intention is to be one with the situation or to have awareness. That is my understanding.
Sir, ये बड़ा थोड़ा complicated.
This needs Abhidhamma. So if you have studied, then it becomes clearer. I mean, less obtuse. See, any action done with an intention, however noble, is in karma, which lead to rebirth. So actions in which there is no personal intention, they are done by Arahant. So there is a mind state in which it's called Arahant mind state, in which there is no intention but actions are flowing. So this is what is meant here. Actions not coming out of any wholesome or unwholesome action, intention. They're just happening with a mind state of non-doership.
But you can say any action can be from the personal intention, but personal intention includes both wholesome and non-wholesome.
If you do wholesome action, then also you will be reborn. To reap the fruit of that good work. किसी अच्छे खासे लेवल पे आपको जन्म मिलेगा, फिर आप एंजॉय करेंगे 2 लाख साल according to the tradition. And then something is still there, the residue is there, which will bring out this situation. So there is a, out of various classifications of consciousness, there are 7-8 states which are associated with the Arahant, which are the naam exactly are there. There are some consciousnesses where there is a wholesome action, mental factors, and there are unwholesome mental factors. Then there are what are called functional consciousness, just functioning in the world. There is no intention behind them to achieve something. So that also is possible.
So when he is referring to that situation where the situation is
there is no doer.
The situation requires an action and that happens.
Yeah. So you can say pure consciousness is operating through that instrument and getting things done. Just as there is no intention for us to keep the heart moving. We don't intend, is it?
Yeah, let's finish Suresh's point then go to again.
There are at least 3 consciousnesses specifically identified associated with, not 3, maybe more, with the Arahant in the Abhidhamma, because of this reason. That he does all the things, but only functionally, not with any intention. We also do many things functionally. It's not that we don't do.
Sutta 25Jan2015. Is it kind of got it, but sir was feeble, hearty? इसका volume थोड़ा बढ़ाओ.
नहीं, हाथ से कर रहा हूँ.
मैंने already बढ़ा.
What I was mentioning was that there are in Dhamma mind states which is recognized as functional. So there is a possibility of action being done without a wholesome or unwholesome intention. So normally for us, intention precludes action. But there can be a situation for an arhat where there is no intention, but things are happening because of the non-doership being deeply embedded in the person. There being no notion of I, yet actions are emerging. So you say actions are emerging just as they say scent is emerging from a flower. So, and we can get some semblance of this, in our day-to-day life. We can get some semblance. If you are able to, one is able to sit quietly in a very difficult situation, something emerges. When you get totally lost, फिर क्या करूँ मैं कुछ नहीं हो सकता.
And actually that.
And then you sit quietly and let things happen. Then whatever action happens, you do without bothering about it.
Many times it feels like the solution comes to you rather than you finding a solution. What needs to be done in this situation doesn't feel like that हमने सोच के निकाला है.
That is the kind of, in the traditional devotion also the same concept is used. That you give up, surrender, and let the God decide what you have to do. And whatever He says, you do. It's almost similar. If it is done with that complete surrender, there's no difference. Right?
Here's a comment from Arvind. When we say something to someone, often people who don't think before they say are called insensitive. So is thinking sensitivity before we talk wrong?
It's not really, it's not a question of right or wrong. The issue is if we are working in the plane where we are responding to people with our intellect and with our understanding and with our goodwill, that is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But there is a doer in the process of doing, in the process of saying. I am saying it. There is a perception arises, and that perception means you strengthen the notion of the doer. So a state being mentioned here is where that notion of doer is not there, which is a much different than doing actions. Of course, doing actions of the wholesome intentions is always better than doing out of unwholesome intentions. But even better than that is let actions happen for you. So that way we identify. When you are not doing any karma, you are not getting bound in the cycle of existence. So that's the way Buddhist psychology works.
So Arvind is saying, what can you do to consciously keep doer out of your action?
It needs, you can't consciously do it. It has to be through surrender.
Because if you're consciously doing it, there is another doer.
There's a doer who's doing it. It's not possible. It's through surrender. That's why in devotion methodology, surrender is greatly suggested. In meditation, at least the way we have been doing, we have been always doing. So we have become kind of averse to surrender, if I may use that word.
Yeah.
We think कि ये तो क्या हो कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं. But there's some non-doing which has outcome of doing also. There is a non-action which is actually action. Or some action can be done with that perception of non-action.
I guess that this aversion to surrender is so intrinsic in this modern times.
And it is also to some extent coded in our genes, We want to control our lives. Surrender looks lack of control. गए अब लोग क्या होगा? We have lost control over our lives, and there is a kind of instinctive resistance to that. It means hopelessness. Surrender is equated to hopelessness. Kind of किसी काम का नहीं रहा है तो.
And so if not done in a right manner,
it can be.
It can be.
Yeah. That's why it's a very very delicate and double-edged sword. कठोपनिषद की बात बड़ी सत्य है. Smoking on a razor's edge, you can just trip into total inaction. You can just step into kind of ये जो hallucination में रहते हैं, drugs लेते हैं, वो भी ये कहते हैं surrender. We are getting into a new consciousness where everything is fine, nice, yeah. Experiencing pure consciousness. Bliss. So it's a very, very, very delicate balance one has to have. That's why I like that statement. There's a lot of doing before you can do knowing.
So Arvind, does that answer your question?
Okay, so the next section is perceiving without naming. And so this is personally which I myself have observed, that whenever I travel, suddenly there's a natural awareness which comes to you, seeing as a background which you're used to changes. You have these beautiful trees and nice mountains, and naturally one becomes aware. And that's what the author is saying, that some people feel more alive when they travel and visit unfamiliar places or foreign countries, because at those times sense perception experiencing takes up more of their consciousness than thinking. And otherwise, and he gives the opposite also, that some people keep their thinking mind on, then as they're traveling as a body, but their mind is still back at the place.
It need not be back. Mind can be traveling with them in their mobiles, tablets, and
that is actually
laptops.
It is modern day has another problem, that you can carry these laptops and mobiles everywhere to distract yourself. And then what author is saying is that this is most people's reality. As soon as something is perceived, it is named, interpreted, compared with something else, like, disliked, or called good or bad. The phantom self, good or bad by the phantom self or the ego, and they are imprisoned in the thought forms, in the object consciousness. And similar to that, I remember in Four Noble Truth, few sentences where Ajahn Sumedho was saying was that you need to increase your sensitivity to things, and if you're feeling good or feeling bad, just feel about it and see how does it feel in your body, what it is affecting and how it is affecting. Rather than trying to pushing things away, that this is good or this is bad. And this is something similar Ekat is also saying here. And then there is this exercise which author mentioned, is that you sit quietly in a room and choose some object, and see that object without trying to label it, name it, see it very part of this object, let the perceiving happen without trying to name. And then he says that after some time, just increase your perception and just try to see things in your room and just be aware of them without trying to know, without trying to name or without trying to say it's good or bad. And I think that is a very beautiful exercise. And when one sits in hill station, looking at the trees or the birds, this is the kind of perceiving.
We don't name it.
We don't.
We don't usually try to compare कि ये mountain अच्छा है, ये mountain.
Yes.
Things, but if you're a botanist, then you will be in trouble. ये पेड़ ऐसा है, इसका नाम ये है, उसका नाम ये. हम लोगों को मालूम नहीं है कुछ, so we just go and see. That makes it a lot of difference.
Yeah.
Or if you go to a mountain and you see there is no tree at all, then the thoughts will start coming. ऐसा हो गया, वैसा हो गया. लोगों ने डिफॉरेस्टेशन कर दी, ऐसी जैसे. You get humbled, looking at a mountain, humble you. The whole magnitude of it, and it has a humbling experience. Or you sit on a small lake and water stream that is in Himachal. It's just
Somehow
it creates a different.
Yeah, it creates something different. Yeah.
Because you are not comparing. The mind is not in a mood to try to find out कि stream मोटी है कि पतली है कि ये उस वाले stream से अच्छी है. Every stream is equally beautiful if you are willing to look at it without kind of perception, without naming and comparing it. Non-judgmental awareness by itself gives you peace. So that experience, that is why people get happy going to a mountainous region. The things are in disorder. Actually, if you look at it, they are totally in disarray. कोई इसमें order नहीं है. But on the other hand, if you go to a cultivated forest, इसमें सीधी लाइन में पेड़ लगे हुए, it doesn't give you that sense of serenity. Because there you begin to see, oh, order में लगे हुए, बड़ा अच्छा. Straight line में लगे हुए सब पेड़.
वो कौन सी स्टोरी थी? Monk वाली थी.
Monk.
Kayan Ram की story.
Right.
Perfect garden.
And then the author is also saying that when you look and listen in this way, you become aware of the subtle and first perhaps a hardly noticeable sense of calm, if one has not perceived this. So this is the next is who is the experiencer. So this is little bit Vedantic, and Buddha never talks about it, but perhaps the state of Nibbana reaches you there. And Buddha never negates or says anything about it. And reasons are possibly obvious because it will become something which can be grasped. And Buddha never wanted it to be a grasping thing. So, the author is saying that every experience has three possible ingredients: sense perception, thoughts or mental images, and emotions. And then you can add 1,000 more definitions of who you are, and by doing so will certainly increase the complexity of the experience of yourself. But in this way you will not end up with the subject or the experiencer who is prior to all experience, but without whom there would be no experience. And then the author mentions this catch, that so who is the experiencer? You are. And who you are? Consciousness. And what is consciousness? That cannot be answered. So, so the way I have understood this thing is that our intellect and thinking is limited, and consciousness or awareness is what which is the infinite. So how can a limited try to grasp something which is infinite? But you can always express in the pointers, which the author says that it is a luminous space in which the world arises and subsides, the space that is life, that I am. It is timeless, I am timeless, eternal. What happens in the space is relative and temporary, pleasure, pain, gain, loss, birth and death. So essentially saying that we rise in that space and our bodies come in that space and go back in that space. But the space is what remains. You get taken in by every thought, emotion, experience to such a degree that you are in fact in a dreamlike state. And this has been a normal state of humanity for thousands of years. It is the underlying I am. The word you are reading and thinking are the foreground, and the I am is the substratum, the underlying background to every experience, thought, feeling. And actually, I think last session we had discussed about this substratum.
Yeah. We've been discussing about it again.
And the next section is the breath, and this is very similar to possibly in the first section of Satipatthana, the breath, Anapan Sati. And so author very beautifully saying is that you can create gaps in your stream of thinking, and those gaps can come through breath. So when you're aware of that breath in you, then for those moments you won't be thinking, and you just have this awareness.
So here, not read this chapter from Eckhart, but somehow is he going towards that somehow I'm feeling that his goal is to kind of stop thinking, or when he says rise above thinking. But many times he, rather than rise above thinking, the examples that he's been taking are more or less related to stopping thinking. Because rising above can happen when thinking is going on also.
Without thinking. How can you rise above thought with thinking?
How can you rise?
So he says rising above thought, right? Raising yourself above thought. So how can you raise above thought with thinking?
Not with thinking. Most of the time he's at least the examples that he has taken.
So I think the reason, as I understand it, that most of us, the majority of the mankind, is usually lost in digressive thinking, and therefore the awareness is not there. So the examples which he gives tend to kind of point out the shortcoming of that way of living. So, for example, when he says if you're observing the breath, then you're not thinking, it's quite obvious. And when the mind is wandering in thought, then you're not observing the breath. So, it is pointing, but obviously you cannot be observing the breath all of your life. So, you may be even get into that in a mechanical manner. So, that point also I think is brought about for them. That this is not a substitute for living with full awareness in our day-to-day life. Whether or not you practice breath awareness as an actual formal meditation is up to you. Formal meditation, however, is no substitute for bringing space consciousness into everyday life. So that is a training which we give to our mind to be calm and peaceful and not to associate with thinking all the time. Because normally, the majority of the people, if they are not thinking, they get lost. Yeah, something has happened. Isn't it? So either I should be thinking on my own, or I should be seeing and reading or writing or doing something. I cannot sit quietly by myself.
What he says very nicely is that one conscious breath taken many times a day is an excellent way of bringing space into your life.
In a sense that you are aware.
You have this, you break this thinking pattern.
Not caught in that endless chatter of the mind. Stories चलती रहती है माइंड में कुछ ना कुछ चलता ही रहता है. For all of us it happens. Unless we are engaged in a task, mind keeps on chatting.
And the next section is about addictions, and defines addiction as a long-standing compulsive behavior pattern. And addiction lives inside you as a quasi-entity or sub-personality, a energy field that periodically takes over you completely. And he gives a way out of
So I would say that majority of mankind is addicted to thinking. Thinking uselessly.
Slide और ये slide मिला दें. So there is an addiction to thinking.
Thinking, uselessly thinking. I mean, कभी होश आ जाए तो क्या सोच रहे हैं, फालतू मतलब ही नहीं है. आप मॉर्निंग वॉक में जाओ तो so many times you realize क्या what kind of thoughts are coming. So जैसे ओके चलो सांस देख लो यार, गहरे सांस डीप ब्रीदिंग ही कर लो, एटलीस्ट लंग्स क्लियर हो जाए. Strange, this kind of thoughts will come, you see something, some association. प्रपंच चलते हैं ना जो ब्रह्मा के, वो सारे वहाँ पे समझ में आया जो कैसे प्रपंच चला. इसको देखा, इसको देख के ये मेमोरी हिट हुई, इसके साथ ये हुई, कहाँ से कहाँ पहुँच गए.
उसमें कोई लॉजिक नहीं बनता, बट चीजें कनेक्ट होती जाती हैं.
कनेक्ट होती है ना, दे आर जस्ट लाइक न्यूरॉन्स फायरिंग फ्रॉम वन टू अनदर, वन टू अनदर, वन टू अनदर. एक को फायर कर रहा हो, चले जा रहा है. You are at their mercy. They are thinking you, rather than you thinking them.
Especially सर उस टाइम पे जब मॉर्निंग वॉक टाइप था, जब आपको एक पर्टिकुलर चीज नहीं सोच रहे होते, दैट पीरियड फील्स लॉट मोर लाइक ड्रीमिंग. ड्रीमिंग में भी कभी एक से दूसरा कनेक्ट हो रहा है, तीसरा नहीं दिखता था, तीसरे से कनेक्ट रहता है. ओनली व्हेन यू आर, फॉर एग्जांपल यू वरीड अबाउट समथिंग, तब तो चलो आप वही चीज बार-बार सोच रहे हो. पर मॉर्निंग वॉक में आप जा रहे हो तो इन्यूमरेबल चीजें,
इतने वो सेंस इंप्रेशन आते रहते हैं. वो जो है ना, पूरा जो आयतन पब्बम है उसकी पूरी प्रैक्टिस हो जाती है उसमें. कभी आप सुन रहे हैं, किसी की आवाज़ सुनाई दी, कुत्ते ने भौंका, आदमी ने देखा, किसी की ड्रेस अच्छी नहीं लगी, किसी की शक्ल अच्छी नहीं लगी, किसी के बाल बिखरे हुए हैं, किसी की टोपी अच्छी नहीं लगी. Those kind of impacts keep on impacting your mind and you keep on getting this way, that mind जो इधर से उधर. कोई हंसी भी आती है, देखते कहाँ जा रहा है, आता ही रहता है.
And so author gives a way out of addiction is that when you notice the compulsive need arising in you, stop and take conscious breath. This generates the awareness. Then for few minutes be aware of the compulsive urge itself as an energy field inside you. Consciously feel the need to physically or mentally ingest or consume a certain substance or the desire to act out of some form of compulsive behavior. Then take few more conscious breaths. And he says that make the addiction part of your awareness practice. Catch any thought that justifies the addictive behavior, sometimes with clever arguments, as they will arise in your mind, and ask yourself who is talking here, and you will realize that addiction is talking. That who is talking, I think, very powerful if one tries to practice. You will notice. But Many times I have seen that the impulse of addiction becomes so strong that one is propelled again.
It's practice and self-observation.
Yes.
You practice that self-observation more and more, then
Yes.
those episodes of getting lost are of smaller duration.
So, next section is inner body awareness. See if you
This
can.
is an interesting observation on this point. I don't know, somewhere I clicked. So, how is it that the mind is getting lost? अब सांस देखते देखते माइंड भटक गया क्यों? तो मन नहीं था, इंटरेस्ट नहीं था इसमें. And then how is it that it comes back? बट क्या हुआ फिर? अब याद आएगा. Mystery है ना?
This is a favorite topic for Rajesh. We are about it. So when I contemplate this,
It is mystery.
it's see. I think so, if you ask me honestly, I'm not sure that I get any glimpses of complete impersonal existence in the day-to-day life other than this. Getting yourself reminded feels to be absolutely impersonal. Zero.
मतलब अगर हमारे बस में होता तो हम अपने आप को इमीडिएटली रिमाइंड कर देते. इंटेंशन तो हमारा क्लियर है, बिल्कुल इंटेंशन तो क्लियर था कि सांस को देखना है, सत्य और संवेदना देख रहे हैं या साउंड ऑफ साइलेंस सुन रहे हैं. ये कहाँ चला गया भाई? क्यों चला गया और क्यों आ गया? ये तो मिस्ट्री है ना. So this becoming awakened to that mystery and accepting it as mystery is quite humbling. Okay, it's okay. You don't get carried away in your identity as a meditator. Things are happening on their own. Isn't it? Just happening on their own. We are only creating conditions. I think that only creating conditions for this to happen or that to happen. You can create under certain conditions, frequency of running away will increase. Under certain conditions, frequency of coming back will increase. ऐसे आप लोग क्या particularly prefer? चलोगे? Is it comfortable with you? No torture?
No torture.
Green tea बना रहे. This body awareness is a really very powerful thing. It's, no doubt about that. So we all know, meditators know this.
So is he talking about in body awareness? He's talking of the
Same.
I can just quickly
read it out and see.
Can you feel your body from within? Sense, feel the specific body parts, feel hands, arms, feet, like
Exactly the same thing.
Exactly. So the next section is this inner and outer space. Your physical body, which is form, reveals itself as an essential formless when you go deeper into it. It becomes a doorway into the inner space. So these lines are very beautiful, that the body becomes the doorway into the inner space. Although inner space has no form, it is intensely alive. The empty space is the life in the fullness, the unmanifested source of all the manifestation flows, out of which all the manifestation flows. The traditional word for that source is God. And I think हम अपने हिंदी में जो कहते हैं कि भगवान आपके अंदर है.
If you see, the Kabir's famous hymns, they are all of the same, pointing to the same thing in their own way. तो है ना, लोग को कहाँ ढूंढ रहे थे मैं तो तेरे पास. So many happen. They all duplicate the same.
And so impersonal consciousness का तो बीच का जो दो है कि जब मैं था तो हरी नहीं, जब हरी था तो मैं नहीं. I don't remember exact दो क्या है.
There's so many of them. नारी धर्मी, नारी अधर्मी, ना मैं जति न कामी. Nothing. I'm doing all the actions, but I'm not. All the actions are happening through me, but I'm not the doer. It's a very beautiful thing. To translate करके डालना चाहिए.
So, when you think, feel, perceive, experience, consciousness is born into form. It is reincarnating into a thought, feeling, sense perception, and an experience. The cycle of rebirths that Buddhists hope to get out of eventually is happening continuously, and it is the only at this moment, to the power of now, that you can get out of it.
The sound of silence also is a very powerful way of feeling the
inner space.
The space of the world. You know. If you meditate deeply on it, the whole body gets dissolved in that vibrations of the sound.
And the author continues, through complete acceptance of the form of now, you become internally aligned with the space which is the essence of now. Through acceptance, you become spacious inside, aligned with space instead of form. This brings a true perspective and balance into your life. The author continues with this, noticing the gaps, and so this is also Paticca Samuppada, maybe when we say the dependent co-arising, maybe one leads to another. This seems very similar to that in the first moment of seeing something or hearing a sound, more of it is if it is unfamiliar, before the mind names or interprets, you see or hear, there is usually a gap or alert attention in which the perception occurs. That is the inner space. Its duration differs from person to person. It is easy to miss because many people, those spaces are extremely short, perhaps only a second. And then the author says that the frequency or duration of those spaces determine your ability to enjoy the life, to feel an inner connectedness with the human beings as well as nature. It determines the degree to which you are free of ego, because ego implies complete awareness of dimensions of space.
When you are aware of the body, you can have that notion, I am aware. वो भी बड़ी परेशानी है. You can be meditating and strengthening your eye.
And you can be, when you're aware of the gap, you can make it.
तो मुझे ये मालूम है. Very tricky thing.
तो मुझे तो वही लगता है कि जैसे चीजें हैबिचुअल सी हो जाती हैं, then that thought process again starts and
आई का नोशन इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग है ना, काटना आसान नहीं है. It's not easy. It's a very very difficult thing. The most difficult thing in the world to do. So tenaciously ingrained हमारे genetic code में बना हुआ है. मैं कर रहा हूँ, मैं नहीं खा रहा तो कौन? So you get into real need a steady reflection, constant reflection and constant negation of life to be able to get some footing on it.
In the next section, lose yourself to find yourself. The author says that inner space also arises when you let go of the need to emphasize your form identity, which is, I think, which we just taught. And then author is trying to give various examples in which we try to emphasize our identity, uh, demanding something, demanding recognition for something, and trying to get attention or giving your opinion when nobody has asked for it, and being more concerned with how the others see you, or using other people for egoic reflections, whereas ego and answers. So this is all
Putting down others, that is the usual thing तो आजकल वही है, दूसरे को नीचे करो तो मैं अपने आप ऊपर रहूँगा नहीं?
तो आजकल ईगो एनालिसिस का नया डिजिटल मीडिया है, ये फेसबुक लाइक्स.
लाइक्स, हाँ, वो भी एक बड़ा हेडी नशा हो गया है.
People what they do is that they want to put something there and want to see how many people like it. And somehow, almost everybody says, even if you put a normal, your photograph a picture, which is very nice, great, looking great, this, that. वो लंबा चौड़ा एक करके almost everybody will say that, and then that becomes ego enhancer.
good, powerful.
So Facebook is full of this.
फोटो डालना मुझे समझ नहीं आया आज.
So ego enhancer है सर.
समझ नहीं आया.
अपनी फोटो डालना है कि
नहीं, हाँ, खासकर अपनी फोटो क्या अगेन एंड अगेन एंड अगेन. अब किसी बच्चा आपका न्यू बॉर्न आपकी बेटी हुई है तो आप डाल समझ में.
That's like breaking a news versus
बट टू
मोस्ट ऑफ टाइम सर यही होता है, लोग कुछ भी रेस्टोरेंट में जाते हैं या
हाँ, बट
कहीं भी जाते हैं.
टू मी साउंड वेरी फनी. आई डोंट नो, मे बी एज की डिफरेंस है इसलिए शायद होता होगा. सम ऑफ माय यंगर रिलेटिव्स वो इस एयरपोर्ट पे खड़े हैं तो इस एयरपोर्ट पर मैं यहाँ पे खड़ा हूँ, बैठा हूँ, वेट कर रहा हूँ.
आई थिंक सर इस एज में
If it is if you are telling it to your mother as a communication, I can understand. But to put on Facebook sounds very strange, no?
but sir, you will find out that people.
I can understand it. Yes, your mother would be interested in knowing ठीक हो कि नहीं. उसको एक मैसेज भेज दो.
Most of the time, people only share things that they believe would be ego enhancers. यहाँ पर उनको अच्छा लगेगा कि जब लोगों को पता है कि मैं इस कंट्री गया, मैं इस जगह पे गया, मैं इस अच्छे रेस्टोरेंट में गया, या इस जगह घूमने गया, या फिर मैं ऐसे एयरपोर्ट पे हूँ. Then they feel the more people know about it, the better I will feel about it.
No, that's okay. So finished? Not yet.
इसके बाद एक स्लाइड बचेगी.
चलो फिर इसे कर लेते हैं.
So I want to read the last sentence here. The author says that de-emphasizing who you are on the level of form is another way of generating consciousness. Discover enormous power that flows through you into the world when you are not emphasizing your form identity.
Lose yourself to find yourself. Good title. इसमें I was reading some book and yesterday I found a very interesting exercise there. He said that every evening before sleeping, to break through this I business, if figure out how many identities you took throughout the day. In the morning you got up late, so you was an angry elder, then what another person, then meditator, then shopper, then morning walking. So if you put that down, then it kind of would break your identity with them. You will not get lost in that identity if you do it again and again. But then you see things as a role play. ठीक है, अभी तो ये role play हो रहा है. So that way they found that you can kind of lose yourself truly. Then that notion of doership जो है कम हो जाएगी. वो आइडेंटिफाई कर लेते हैं ना उससे अपने आप से. We don't think that it is a role I am playing at a particular moment of particular kind. So that way you can reduce your identification with the form. That was a good suggestion. Especially if you're caught in a situation and you remember it's just a role I am playing. Don't take it seriously. You can immediately cut off from that. And become still. And once you identify, the mind immediately becomes still.
टीचर देखा है कि एक बार अगर आपको सिचुएशन में दिल जाएगी कहाँ है कि मगज कभी कर रहा है छोड़ दे when you leave it and then ठीक है जो हो रहा है.
You can see it like a film, you know. कर लो भाई, you also play your role, कोई बात नहीं, that's all right. If you just make a mental note of this thought itself, that it's a role being played, a meeting हो रही है, I have my role, he has his role, he has his role. ठीक है, it's all right. Then you don't get carried away either way. You don't take praise personally, you don't take criticism personally, then you are peaceful. So that is the way one can really be still in action. You are involved in action and yet still.
The last section is the stillness. And the author says that stillness is another word for the space. And becoming conscious of the stillness whenever we encounter it in our lives will connect us with a formless, timeless dimension within ourselves, that which is beyond thought, beyond ego. When you are still, you are who you are before you temporarily assume the physical and mental form called a person. You are also who you will be when that form dissolves. When you are still, you are who you are beyond your temporal existence, consciousness, unconditioned, formless, eternal.
This completes the section. So finally completed the chapter. Arpan say thank you to Deepak.
Arpan is typing something. I am not sure whether it's thank you or what.
Whether he heard me, is it?
When he heard it. अरे एकट थैंक यू कर रहा है. अभी नहीं कर रहा हूँ, अभी तो बहुत चैप्टर्स बचे हैं.
2 बचे हैं. नेक्स्ट सेक्शन में फिर क्वेश्चन आंसर्स भी हैं. You start with some questions and then it goes on. सबसे ज्यादा तो वो परेशान होगा. Good. Arpan, you have any questions? Silesh? Okay. So Silesh, in the end, the audio was now fine?
An interesting note I have made on this chapter. The German word for breathing, Atman, is derived from ancient Indian Sanskrit word.
German word for breathing is Atman.
Atmen. Meaning the indwelling spirit or divine spirit. Interesting. मैं कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग चीज होती है ना लिखने के अंदर नहीं.
Okay, Arpan and Salesh, I'll just close the session now. We'll see you again.
We'll come to the form of the tea.
Yes. Yeah, bye.